Right, I'd like to swiftly hand the mic over to Harinder. Harinder, thank you very much for joining us. Harinder's joining us from Motability, and for those of you that didn't know, Motability is the UK's largest B Corp. So Harinder's going to give us a story of good to great to excellence in procurement. Thanks, Harinder.
Thank you, Carrie. Good to see everyone today. So this is what I'm going to walk you guys through in terms of an agenda. I'll give you a flavour for Motability operations as a company. I'll touch on our procurement journey so far, and there's a couple of things I want to call out within that as part of the journey. And then we'll talk about sustainability, ESG and accessibility and our role within that. Oh, I should add, the procurement team has spent a lot of work this year trying to get in lots of team meetings across all the companies, across the whole company. And we always have this as part of our roadshow deck because we want teams out there in the business to feel and believe that actually we can achieve so much more together, and we want them to really resonate with that. So I thought I'd leave it there. Overview of Motability operations. So Motability operations runs the Motability scheme on behalf of the Motability Foundation. And it's a scheme that was established 50 odd years ago. And is that better? Yeah. And essentially it helps keep disabled people independent and mobile. So in the UK, if you're in receipt of a disability allowance and you're eligible, you can either take that allowance as income, or you can sacrifice that allowance for a car scheme, a powered wheelchair or scooter. And as I say, it's designed to keep disabled people independent and mobile. Some key facts, we serve over 900,000 customers in the UK. So when I joined 5 years ago, we were hovering around 700,000. So we've seen significant growth over the last 5 years. We are a truly purpose-driven business, and it's a term that gets bandied around quite often these days, but we serve disabled customers. That is our driving ethos through everything that we do. We're owned by some of the major banks, and all of our surplus profits get reinvested to suppress pricing and keep it affordable for our customers. The arrow in the middle represents that there is a commercial relationship between Motability operations and the foundation. We deliver and run the scheme day to day on their behalf. Our journey so far. So procurement was established back in 2013. And what was interesting is the technology department decided that they needed a purchasing person. And they started off with one person, and that person quickly tried to understand spend visibility, who are key suppliers, key contracts to help drive activity. What's interesting is there was one procurement person reporting into IT as opposed to finance or a more central function. Nothing wrong with that, but they seized the opportunity. And from 2013 to 2017, they turned the handle, they put more things in place, put more processes in place, but they came to a juncture back in 2020 which was, actually, there are a few drivers to change. Is this working? Is the business really benefiting from what it has enjoyed today? And as you can see there, appreciate there's a lot of detail for the folks at the back. The drivers to change was contracts are becoming more complex now. There's PaaS, there's IaaS, there's SaaS, there's hybrids of all of those. The volume, the spend was increasing, technology was restructuring, and so we had to decide, actually, what do we want procurement of the future to look like? And I've got a gold star there to remind me to talk about the next slide, which is when I joined and how I restructured the procurement team in a slightly different way. And I've got that there to get you all thinking about how organizational structure and procurement, when done slightly differently, can actually potentially drive better outcomes. And as you can see, our journey up until 2020 and thereafter, we've really gone, in my view, from good to great, and we will continue to go from great to excellence in the long term. And looking back on it, we've come from just understanding our spend visibility to now designing AI agents. We've got Alistair in the room from the Motability. You want to put your hand up? Yeah. So we're having active conversations in our procurement team meetings around creating different agents for different tasks, and that's something we'll probably talk about later, but it just demonstrates the journey that we've been on so far. What I thought I would call out is some of our lessons learned along the way. It's so easy to fall into the trap of waiting for the perfect data. So in the procurement world, we talk about taxonomy, level 1, 2, 3, 4. You can wait years to get it, but don't let that hold you back in driving a decision or making better choices. Really prioritise stakeholder relationships, get them to want to work with you. So in procurement, we talk about push and pull factors. A procurement policy could say, you have to engage us over 100K or a threshold, but that's through force. That's pushing someone in your direction. We want someone to be attracted to work with us. We've got a clear proposition. Here's how we can benefit your outcomes through good procurement practice. Effectiveness versus efficiency. So we talk about this now and again within the team. And this is about when you're starting off a procurement function, in my view, it's more important to be effective and drive better outcomes as opposed to being efficient, but that will change as you get more mature along your journey. Then the focus turns the other way. The term best-in-class procurement, just remember that that might not be best for every fit in every organisation. It depends on what the company needs from you. So that was a good thought process to go through. And in terms of the highlights, we've really got some great engagement from the senior leaders and the exec. I'll come on to talk about how we measure the procurement value, what our value proposition is. And one thing I did want to call out is a strong team ethos and a psychological safety net. We know that procurement jobs can be stressful. We know that if you've got savings targets, you can really be up against it. In every job description for procurement at Motability, we've had that in bold, psychological safety net, because we want this to be a team that you can thrive in, and we have a win-lose mentality. We win together. If we lose, we'll focus on that together. So this is the example. So let me take you back to 2020 when I restructured the IT procurement team. In a nutshell, IT procurement and FinOps, which is cloud cost management, and IT asset management were all part of the same team. And Gartner, we are Gartner for client, had never seen that before. And they were just writing literature at the time, and they were surprised to see us ahead of the curve. And the reason why I wanted to call this out is to get you all thinking slightly differently. Who says that procurement teams always have to consist of commercial people? Have we ever wondered that? Nothing wrong with it, but what I'm trying to call out here is there are some synergies to be had by joining those domains together. So without going through all of them, IT asset management is all around understanding the IT assets, of which there are the types, what we're using. So if you've got a contract that contracts for server maintenance, you've got 500 servers, who's actually checking in a year's time we've still got 500? Last thing you want to do is renew when you've only got 250 left, you're overpaying. That's where IT asset management, for example, can share that information at renewal stage with IT procurement to drive some of that cost saving. You can see, it does work. This is roughly the role of IT asset management, roughly the role of FinOps, roughly the role of IT procurement, but together, this is what they can hopefully achieve by working more effectively together. So it's just something I wanted to call out, and a couple of examples. Some of the major cloud providers, without naming them, all have their own marketplaces. It's so easy nowadays for software engineers to purchase software in the cloud. The reason why that's become a challenge for procurement and finance is there is no PO to raise. There's nothing to receipt against. There's no invoice. So how can procurement detect that spend is happening? Well, one of the reasons why we were able to get that visibility was working together, and by making sure that procurement was embedded as part of the FinOps purchasing strategy in the marketplace. And they like to call it shadow IT. We can also call it shadow procurement. If IT hasn't understood where the spend is going, then we certainly haven't. So I just wanted to call that out. This is our value proposition. A show of hands who works in a procurement role in the room, please. Okay. So let's say, for example, you were the only procurement person at your company and a decision was made to outsource procurement. So your role is now managing the outsourced provider. You would expect that in that contractual relationship, there are clear services that they're going to deliver to you, clear SLAs, something of that description. What we've tried to do is describe that as an internal service function. I think every department in most companies should be able to describe what procurement is here to do, the value it will bring to the table, how we measure that impact, and where we can evidence it. And that's essentially what our value proposition tries to do here. And as you can see, we've been fully transparent. We're not there yet on everything, but we've got the appetite, we've got the self-direction to get there in time. This is something that we circulate quite regularly as part of our procurement reporting to the exec. So all the execs in the company see this. And what this describes, I guess being in the automotive sector, we're not just sitting idle, we keep driving forward. And we try to measure and monitor kind of the things that we're putting in place for the rest of the business. So for example, we sent a survey to all of the senior leaders in the company, and we said, here are the things we think we need to improve on to better serve you. What are we missing? What are the things that we do really well today? And let's call those out. But where would you like us to improve to better serve you, knowing where the business is heading? And that helped feed into where we needed to transform. Through policy, through third-party risk management, we've launched our intranet page, and what we're doing is using all the various social media channels within the company to push out like commercial training, getting people to think commercially, and trying to raise the bar. So when procurement is involved, you've raised the level of commerciality across the business, so the business benefits as a whole. We're also talking about AI. We're also talking about what typical AI use cases are for procurement and how we can get on the front foot of that. We've offered procurement work experience, and you get the idea. We're constantly trying to move forward, and we're already thinking about next year. This is the last slide. So, as Kerry said, Motability is the largest, if not one of the largest B Corps in the UK. If you don't know what B Corp is a globally recognised company that assesses businesses against quite a high bar in terms of are they operating against a governance framework well. So it's basically a very high standard of business to assess businesses against. The likes of Innocent Drinks are on there, Patagonia, in terms of their sustainable approach. And we achieved our certification late last year, earlier this year. And what that means for procurement is we should have the ability to influence some of these areas. So Hemant mentioned on one of his slides, supplier diversity. How do procurement teams source women-owned businesses, LGBTQ-owned businesses, ethnically diverse-owned businesses? How do you actually find out that information? And why does it matter? Is the question that we need to ask ourselves. And there are tools out there. So that tells me it's not impossible to do. So the next question is, where's the business value in doing it? And this is where B Corp really helps drive the procurement agenda around that, is because it's no longer a fanciful idea. It's now expected. So now the expectation is on us to act on these things. Human rights, sustainability. So we have a supplier code of conduct on our website at the moment. We're looking to evolve that so we can have more of a partnership model with our suppliers. And it might say something like this. Let's say, for example, Motability had a net zero target by 2050. The charter will say, here's our ambition, here's therefore our expectation from our suppliers, and together we can make the world a better place. And that's the kind of messaging that we want to build through the charter that we'll be working on. Accessibility. So I don't know if any of you have heard of BDF, so the Business Disability Forum. Motability being Motability that serves disabled customers, we've been a long-standing member of the Business Disability Forum, and essentially it's a large non-for-profit organisation in the UK that helps businesses like us to be more disability inclusive. So thinking about the software that we spec, the cars that we might design, thinking about some of the challenges around that, they help businesses be more accessibility minded. And they have a procurement network. So I attend that every quarter. I think some of our team members do. And we discuss and promote some of these things. So WCAG stands for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And this is where, across 3 different levels, you can measure any website on the internet and to what degree it's accessible. So there's something like level A, AA, AAA, which is very hard to get. And some of the things we've embedded since we've started attending these is, well, how do you embed accessibility criteria during RFPs? What can we put in our procurement policy to drive some of that better change? And what about contractual clauses? And we've seen evidence so far where in one of our contracts, we ask the supplier to be liable for maintaining those standards for the life and duration of that service at their cost, and have signed up to it. So again, that's a use case study. That's a useful case study we can then promote to the rest of the business to raise their game. And we've worked with external agencies as well to continue just driving better outcomes and just keep improving. But hopefully that touches on, I guess, sustainability. It's a big focus for us, as well as ESG. Another way to see B Corp is, if you imagine diversity and inclusion, ESG, sustainability and governance, picture that as a Venn diagram. It brings all those things together and it creates a really high standard on the back of that, and it assesses those things against the businesses just to see where everyone is at. And it's actually really hard to achieve. So much so, B Corp are changing their standards every 3 to 5 years. So whilst we might be a B Corp today, it's not guaranteed in 3 years, so we're already starting to think about it now. And that's a good thing, right? We should be keeping on raising the bar. And that was it. And I guess the main message is start small but think big. You know, we're all capable of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Harinder. Right.